Hello and welcome to Shift Happens with me, Matt Archer-Davis. I'm the founder and managing director of The Bright Click.
And I'm Sanjiv Dodhia, working with scale-up SME businesses.
And it's good to have you here with us again today. Thank you very much for joining us. So today we're talking about something very topical. We're filming this in the middle of December, and we're talking about the idea that if you don't control January, then January will control you. It's the illusion of a fresh start, isn't it, Sanjiv? January, well, let's not say the first, because generally we come back to work a few days after the first. But it's this idea that the 1st of January is like a magic reset button and we can put everything off in December until January. But that's not a great way of doing it, is it? I think, I know from the past I've been guilty of that. So yeah, maybe we should start there. Why should we start our planning in December? Why do so many businesses just switch off mentally in December?
Yeah, no, it's a really good call. I find it very frustrating, Matt, as I've spoken to you before, that when I'm talking to business owners about their priorities for the next year, at the start of December, some of them are saying, "Can we speak about this the other side of the new year?" And what's frustrating is that you're writing off almost a 12th of the year. You're writing 3 weeks of the year where you're saying, I don't want to really think about it. And I think it's a really missed opportunity because two things. One is you actually go in with the same baggage that you've got now, and there's no kind of clearing of what's important, what's not important, what am I going to start doing, stop doing, do more of, and so on. And as soon as you come back, you're busy, you're on the back foot, and you haven't taken the opportunity to take stock and process and reflect and refocus. So it's a bit of a double whammy.
Can you understand how businesses, or business owners, I should say, can lose their discipline a little bit in December? Because I can see it myself, like yesterday, for example, where on a Monday I would normally have a day packed full of meetings. And yesterday afternoon, I had no meetings at all from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m., which is really, really unusual. So I'm sat there at my desk, and I think normally the discipline of the day where you
Yeah.
use a default diary or you have meetings booked in is that you're generally structuring your day around, like, a meeting or a call or doing this task, and then this meeting, call, task, meeting, call, etc., etc. Whereas
Yeah.
yesterday afternoon, I just had this blank canvas. So you can understand how some people look at that and think, okay, maybe I'll just take the dog for a long walk, or maybe I'll just take it easy this afternoon. But that
Yeah.
is, as you say, a complete missed opportunity to prepare at a time when you
Yeah.
haven't got lots of calls and meetings, you haven't got those distractions. That's the time to sit down and get yourself ready for the new year, right?
100%. I think that analogy can apply to, for example, our disciplines around health and fitness, right?
Mm.
Because what happens all year round, you're working hard, you're working in discipline, you get in the gym 3-4 times a week, and so on. And then because of a couple of festive days, you drop it off, but you drop it off not for a couple of days, you drop it off for three weeks or so. And then you put on those kilos, you feel flabby and you're and a bit unfit and so on, and
Mm.
then you redouble your efforts in January. And everybody's in the gym in January. You can't get any space in the car park. Well, what if we didn't do that? What if we carried on as normal? Of course, give ourselves 2 or 3 days off to indulge and so on. But what if we kept that momentum going so that we can pick it straight back up the minute we come out of the festive break? See, I'm a bit contrarian. I'll carry on going to that gym until the gym shuts up, because I don't want to drop it off for 3 weeks. And I think we do that in our business as well, and we miss a real opportunity to keep the momentum going, but secondly, as you say, to actually take the fact that we're not operationally on the strategic thinking and planning and getting ready. The other thought that was going through my mind is, think about your teams, think about your staff, right? Are you sending them away with real clarity, vision, and purpose about where we're going to pick things up when we get back, and give them time to kind of process that and align with that? Or are we just going to kind of drop off? They're wondering what's going on. They're reflecting on, what do I want?
of course.
Their thoughts are going to, actually, is this the best place for me? Is this where
Yeah,
I'm going to achieve my goals? Then their thoughts turn into, oh, why don't I have a look at, these other opportunities? Are you sending them away with clarity, focus, fired up, or are you sending them away with a bit of, I'm not sure, so
yeah.
they fill in the blanks for themselves?
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. I think your gym analogy is a really good one, actually, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, if you're determined to get fit in January, or you want to start 2026 off on the right sort of healthy way, then
Yeah,
the good way to do that is to start preparing for that in December, right?
right.
Rather
Yeah,
than decide to try and do everything, because that's the reason most gym plans in 2026, or in the new year, fail, is because you expect too much of yourself too soon in the month, and when you don't achieve those results so quickly because you've just spent the previous 2 or 3 weeks eating mince pies and Christmas puds, of course you're setting yourself up to not do so well in that capacity, right? I think another example of that would be dry January as well, where a lot of people say, well,
yeah,
I'm going to stop drinking for January. It's an
yeah,
unrealistic target if you've just been like, if your habits are different already. It's about setting new habits and setting new routines and planning for the year, rather than doing something kind of radical, or just thinking that January the 1st is this magical date where everything's going to change. Because,
yeah,
I'm 48 years old. I know well enough now that just isn't how it works. But somehow we build this illusion in our head as to, oh, yeah, new year, new start. That's how it's going to work. Whereas in fact,
yeah,
if you want to make a new start,
yeah,
perhaps make a new start now, today. I think your teams thing is interesting as well, because obviously, like, when depending on the industry that you're working in, your team are going to have interactions with other businesses or with consumers or etc. Right?
yeah,
Some members of your team might be exceptionally busy in December,
yeah,
some might not be. But if you haven't got that plan, that structure, and that message in place to your team,
yeah,
then you have a danger that if you've got a team of 8 people, 16 people, 50 people, 100 people,
yeah,
that message from the top down is, hey, we're all switching off for 3 weeks. The loss of productivity, the loss of deliverability,
yeah.
and the loss of momentum
Yeah,
is potentially enormous, isn't it, at that point?
I think that's a key word. Loss of momentum. People that can make decisions now are deferring those decisions to middle of January. That's deferring your progress by a
Sure.
month. People that could execute things now are putting it off in January, where you get busy, so you're under that much more pressure. A bit like your gym, you've added more pounds, and now you're trying to lose double the amount. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
So what's the alternative? What kind of scenario could you up?
Well, what's been interesting is I've had a few things that have been on the back burner, if you like, for the last few months. I've been very busy with a couple of extra kind of things on top of my normal working weeks, if you like. I've been abroad a few times, and it's changed quite a lot of my routine. So there's been a few things I've been meaning to do that I haven't been doing. A couple of things are campaign driven. So I've been wanting to launch some campaigns, but it's involved a few moving parts.
Right.
So, in the last maybe 5 days, I've been able to sit down and make a plan to get those moving parts a little bit in motion, to get a few of those things joining together and working. The other thing is that it's that classic thing of, during a normal working week, it can be simple things like you've got some admin to do, or some invoicing to do, or some stuff that you need to catch up on, which will clear the decks ahead of the new year. That's a
Right.
good way of looking at it, I think. Like, so it's not only the plans that you're making for 2026 and how you can start interacting that, but can you perhaps remove some bottlenecks that have been building up over the course of the last year that you genuinely haven't had the time to look at? So I think rather than a taking the foot off the brakes, I actually think it's more like a change of direction. I think, right. So for the last 2 weeks of the year, I'm not going to take my foot off the gas. I'm going to avert what I normally, like, the tasks I would normally do that are no longer there at the moment. Let me add some different tasks to keep me busy till the end of the year. And that in itself is a nice way to switch it up. It's to change things around a little bit. It's a change of scenery. It's a change of routine for a couple of weeks. But
Yeah.
it's a much better change of routine for the business than
Yeah.
saying I'm going to binge watch Netflix for the next few days, and take the odd call and check the odd email.
I'm exactly with you, Matt. So I try and do three things through this period and advocate to my clients that you do three things. One, you do a tidy up, right? You don't want to leave things lingering on operationally into the next period, the next season. So what do you need to do to close things down, close things out so that they're not carry on. Secondly, it's a really good time to take stock because you have got the time to reflect on, and I like to do a bit of a realignment with clients to help them reflect on how the year's gone, what's gone well, what's not gone so well, what are the lessons learned, what are the challenges that remain, that need attention, and then use that to kind of reprioritize, reset goals. There's financial years and there's calendar years, so you might want not have to rethink your kind of business goals and financial goals in the same way, depending on your financial year. But calendar year is a good time to just think about what is it I really want to achieve next year, what is it I want to change, what are the biggies, and give that some thought. So I think it's a really good time to process all of that and have a bit of a clearing, and then clarify where your personal and business priorities are next year, whilst keeping the operational going so that it doesn't stack up for later on. I think if you can achieve those two things, then actually you'll have a better break,
Mm.
because it won't be spinning in your head, because it does if you don't process things, you don't write them out and you don't work through them. You might think that you're resting, but your brain's still worrying about these things. So I think it helps you rest better. It gives you more clarity, and whilst you're resting and you're sleeping, the subconscious brain is working away on whatever you've told it is important to look out for next year. We talk about the reticular activating system. That's in place. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, look it up. But that's why goal setting and visualizing and verbalizing and materializing your goals, as in turn them into what's the action plan to achieve them. We did that in our session yesterday, and I think you went away with some super clarity. So that's what I like to use this period for, rather than just a deferral, which I think is a wasted opportunity.
100%. I was saying something similar to my son. He's about to take his GCSEs in May.
Yeah.
And I was sort of saying to him, about the importance of building that up to the idea that you can then take a break after you've taken your GCSEs.
Yeah.
You can know that you can keep your head clear for that entire summer and prepare for your A levels when you're going back. You wouldn't want to be preparing for your A levels by thinking of all the things you did wrong around your GCSEs because you didn't plan properly to build up to your GCSE exams.
Yeah.
Now that's going to ruin what is arguably the best summer of your entire life if you didn't plan properly and didn't prepare properly. And it's a very similar kind of thing. Clear your head for the Christmas break, knowing that you come back in January with a fresh start, a fresh plan and everything. But don't leave all the work to do on that day when you get back in January, because you've basically compounded the problem. I think compounding is an interesting word there, isn't it, around procrastination? Because ultimately, if you are taking your foot off the gas now, at this time of year, with what we have 9 days before Christmas Day, so let's say another full working week, really, but from where we're recording this podcast, procrastination. Oh, I'll leave this to January. Oh, I'll leave this to. Oh, I don't need to do that now. What you're actually doing is compounding that. We talk about compounding habits and the 1% improvements and what they can add up to over a year. Well, the 1% procrastinations can add up pretty rapidly if you're not careful. And things on your to-do list, as I say, I've been guilty in the last few weeks of my to-do list just getting a little bit bigger, and the same things being moved from one to-do list to another and moving along bit by bit. Okay, that's still there, that's still there, that's still there. So this is a brilliant time for me to get those things off the to-do list. And it would be great to go into January with either no to-do list, i.e. nothing legacy, or all of the to-do lists are positive things that I'm going to need to do in January to move forward. But I would feel terrible now to down tools and take the same to-do lists that have been hanging over me for the last few weeks into 2026. They're on there for a reason, and they're quite often important. If they're on your to-do list, they're an important task. So I think that, definitely compounding is a good way of thinking about these things. You want to compound positively going into the new year, but you don't want to be taking compound procrastination with you. right? It's
Yeah.
great
I think
opportunity to clear that.
compounding works both ways, right? The positive compounds exactly as you say, but the negative compounds negatively. It's like um uh have an hour's walk every day, or eat pie and chips every day. They're both going to compound in different ways. So
Yeah.
I think the principle is exactly right. So not just lurching into the new year is a good idea. So Matt, let's maybe talk about what are those things that you can do. You alluded to one, is making decisions. We might have been putting off decisions for quite some time, even though we've had taps on our shoulders.
Mm.
In relationship terms, I work with a family lawyer, and she tells me that the first Monday of January is National Divorce Day. That's when
Yeah.
people decide that they don't want this relationship anymore.
Mm.
They run out. It's decisions like that. People that you've got that aren't right for the business going
Mm.
forward. Well, rather than deferring that decision, how about you take the time to process that decision now?
Absolutely.
Customers that we ABCD our customers, and there's
Mm.
customers that we know we just are not right for our business and are either costing us money or costing us satisfaction, but we're not courageous enough to step into that decision. I think those decisions around people, process, customers, the business we want to do, the business that we don't want to do, that this is a great time to kind of take stock and call time on those decisions. What do you think?
Absolutely, because not only is it a good time to do it, but it's also a good way to get that off your shoulders,
Yeah,
to go into the new year with. So it's not only a good time to make the decision, but it makes your Christmas break, the ability for you to recharge and for you to kind of like, recuperate after what has been a busy year for most business owners, I'm going to presume. It means that you go into that without carrying that weight with you. And that
yeah,
thing you have been putting off, or that thing you have been delaying, it makes no sense to delay it even further just because there's a break coming up, and then January is a new start, a reset, and all that kind of thing. I think
yeah,
that getting that work done now is absolutely correct. I think also, like, a little bit of like, the some plans are best made for the new year now, in that maybe other business owners at this point might not be necessarily receptive to a marketing campaign, might have their eyes elsewhere at this point.
yeah,
However, if you've got a sales or marketing plan, now's the time to plan it, to get the execution of it ready to go,
yeah,
and to know that you could press the button on January the 3rd, January the 4th when you're back,
yeah,
rather
yeah,
than start planning on January the 4th when you're back, which is
yeah.
basically what I'm doing this week, is getting a load of those plans in place. I want to press the button when I come back.
Yeah.
I don't want to start thinking about it when I come back.
Yeah, and I think the same goes with, for example, prospecting. Actually, what I found is if you keep up the outreach activities and you keep the activity level, yes, you'll find some people don't want to talk now, don't want to progress things now, but you also find that there are people that
They've got the
that
bandwidth.
that got the bandwidth, that want to do it, that for all the reasons that we're discussing, don't want to defer it to next year. And if you're not talking to them, then somebody else will be.
Yeah,
And you
that's right.
may miss I found that every year I've onboarded new clients in January that I might have been in dialogue with for a while, but because I've continued the activity, we've got to a point where they say, "Yeah, let's do it. I want to start coaching," and I do the strategic planning and alignment sessions this side of Christmas. So you're always going to get a proportion of people that are on the same page and that really want to start the new season on the front foot, not the back foot. So we might be missing out on those, and that
Yeah.
could be potential hires that are thinking about making the move. Well, now might be a good time to be talking to them in readiness for something that they're already looking to do. I've definitely found that.
Absolutely. We're putting our prices up in the new year. So I'm finishing this year with a campaign to offer some bundled pricing on our
Yeah,
existing pricing. Take advantage of that now. And I'm putting some emails out to our web clients to ask who might be interested in that. And I've had some takers.
yeah,
And I've had the time to do that, but they've had the time to absorb the offer and to see if they want to take action before the new
yeah,
year. So I'm using the new year as a bit of a deadline for that as well, which has worked well. One thing to finish up then with Sanjiv is we talked earlier on. We had our realignment session yesterday, and we did quite a lot of reflection during that time. And I think that the combination of reflection and what went well, what didn't go well, some gratitude, I think, for the things that did go well. And I don't think I've ever been more grateful for the end of a working year to the one that I've just had. And I'm taking the time to understand that and to think about that and to reflect on it and to take that in. What's your advice there on what business owners can do to reflect, to take the time to reflect on 2025 and how they might use those reflections to empower their start to 2026?
Okay, I think the process we went through is what I'd use is anybody who works with me, I ask them to keep a kind of a bit of a win log, which is throughout the year every week take some time to reflect on what went well, what hasn't gone so well, what are the wins, because when you just look through those wins, our chimp brains always focus on the problem, never the achievement, never the recognition. That's all very fleeting, and then we forget and we worry about the next problem or the next challenge and so on. So I keeping that win log, and then so just going back over the year or the quarter, whatever the period is, and asking those questions: what's gone well, what's not gone so well, what have been my energy drainers, what have been my energy boosters, and that be around people, processes, activities, projects, and so on, can then lead you to what do I want more of? What do I want less of in my life and my business? What are the, if you like, the boat anchors, the things that are holding me back? There might be, again, people, it could be decisions or beliefs, your own self-limiting beliefs. It's just taking stock of all of that. And once you've kind of processed that, I think that helps you give you real clarity on what you want to move forward with, just as you did. You came out with some real clarity on the three things that you wanted to move forward with. And I think it's because you took the time to process all of the things I just spoke about, the drainers, the boosters, the likes, the dislikes, what went well, what didn't, the challenges, and so on. So that leads you to, okay, what decisions do I need to make? What priorities do I need to set? I can't do everything. So what's the most important thing, and why? And what's the measure of success going to be? How do I know when I've achieved? And then what's the time frame? And then what resource do I need to apply to it? But most importantly, what focus do I need to put into it? What time do I need to allocate? And that gets to, what does my default diary need to look like? So I'm in a process with my assistant Amy's help of resetting our calendar for the year, resetting my default diary based around those priorities. What's the most effective and efficient way of delivering on that set of priorities? And inevitably that means that I need to allocate the time to it consistently to achieve it. Because with the best will in the world, if I don't allocate the time, it's not going to get done. It's be a miracle if the thing happens, if I don't lock in the time and allocate the resources, because it might not just be my time. It might be Amy's time, for example. It might be a third party agency's time around that specific initiative. So I think if you run the process properly, it always ends up with, what does my diary need to look like? Where's the allocate? What do the routines need to look like? What do the habits need to be like? James Clear, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. I think there's so much truth in that, because in the end, I think it's about committing to the process. A bit like you talked about your recent experience with the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's got to be diarized or it won't happen. And then I see the results of the consistency, the compound results, which, within, for me, at the gym, came within 6 to 8 weeks of people actually saying to me, you look different. And that is because I diarized going to the gym every day, well, every other day or whatever, for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I saw the results, and it's you can apply that to anything, can't you? Like, you can apply that to everything, business wise or relationship wise or work wise. So I was going to ask about maybe a book recommendation from you at the end of this, but it sounds like Atomic Habits. I was actually thinking myself, Atomic Habits is probably the perfect book recommendation for this.
For this time of year, when you want to affect transformational change, I think it's the perfect book.
It is.
There's loads of books, but if you can get your head around setting up those routines that then turn into habits, and habits
Mm.
then shift your belief and your identity, and do all the things that are prescribed in that book, is the environment right? Are the people that I'm hanging around the right people? Am I putting myself in a place to uh, compound the result? Because the results don't happen like this, do they? We always see this kind
Yeah.
of curve
Yeah.
where you don't see anything for quite some time,
Yeah.
but then you see some accelerated
Absolutely.
result. And I think that's life, and that's business, that's everything. And when we get our head around that, and we put that into play, and particularly this time of year, take stock of what those the good compounding habits are, and what the ones we want to let go of, those decisions are really vital around relationships, projects, the whole lot.
But that's very much digital marketing in a nutshell as well. It's like, you put that effort in at the beginning
Yeah.
and you keep going. Some people give up at this point
Yeah.
and saying it's not working, it's not working. And then
Yeah.
straight
Well,
away
yeah,
off the
SEO could be a good
SEO.
example of it,
SEO
right?
is a great example of that. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You don't If you don't maintain it for long enough, you won't see the results.
Yeah, Google rewards your compound consistency basically by sending you up the rankings for doing the right things over a period of time and doing the
Right.
things it wants you to do. It's
Right.
exactly the same principle. Once you make that first breakthrough, you'll
Yeah.
find that you'll get more breakthroughs because it's compound at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it's exponential at that point.
I had a new client on board around this time last year, and the reason he got in touch is I met him at a seminar I was presenting at 7 years ago, but he'd been reading my emails uh, ever since. And he hadn't raised his hand. I occasionally kept in touch, but wasn't quite ready whenever I periodically
Mm,
kept in touch. But he raised his hand when he was ready. Now, if that that email hadn't been kind of
exactly.
going into his inbox, and he hadn't been opening them, reading them, then he wouldn't have reached out.
Exactly
So
that.
yeah, I
Exactly that.
think that's a good example of what we're talking about.
So to wrap up today then, Sanjiv, so what are the pitfalls? What are the things that we can all avoid as business owners going into January? Like, the classic mistakes, the classic things that everybody does in January, or that, that we shouldn't be doing.
Well, one I can think of is having too many priorities. I think that list can sometimes be too long, and I'm a big believer in what's the most important thing. What's the thing that for you personally is going to move the dial in the next quarter, or for you
Mm,
as a business is going to move the dial in the next quarter. Whatever that is, make that the key imperative, and everything else in support of that.
mm,
So if new client acquisition is the most important thing,
mm,
then really put focus on that. Or if profitability is the most important thing, then all your focus and energy should be going to what are all the levers that I can use to drive profitability.
mm,
Brainstorm through that, then pick out of that the things you're actually going to commit to doing, and turn that into an actionable plan, and communicate that with the team to make sure that there's ownership and accountability around it, and then keep a regular checkpoint around the progress on that, and keep focused on that. So for me, sometimes we'll come in with a whole long wish list in January, but it's not realistic, and you're gonna get swamped. So that's maybe what one of the first pitfalls to avoid is
I
much.
I think that's a great one. I think that's a really good one. I think also confusing outcomes with tasks,
Yeah.
I think is a really interesting one. I think, one of the things we looked at yesterday, which I really like, is the idea that I said that, I wanted to improve my retained revenue numbers
Yeah.
by I think we said £14,000 a month within the next 6 months, right? Which is kind of
Yeah.
like a realistic plan, a realistic goal. But chunking that into tasks was basically, so what I need to do is every month I need to have brought in retained revenue worth £2,000, and to do that consistently for 6 or 7 months will get me to that figure. So to bring in retained revenue of £2,000 a month, I've got to bring in £500 a week
Yeah.
in new business. So therefore, working backwards, if my conversion rate is 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, I need to be having 20 odd conversations in order to deliver these consistently. So to get 20 conversations, this is what I have to do at the top of the funnel. And it's like when you chunk it down like that,
Yeah.
and you start saying, okay, so I know if I work to this system and I work with these numbers and I do this consistently every single day, I hit my £500 a week, my £2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And by month 6, month 7, I'm doing my £14,000 a month, which was the idea. When you chunk it down like that, it sounds easy, doesn't it? It's completely
And
doable.
that's how to make it easier. It's never easy, but to make it easier, make it achievable, that's exactly what we need to do. Great example. It's committing to the process, and the consistency of the process, I think, is what delivers the outcome. The outcome will be an inevitable, it will come at the end of that sequence of activity. And we could do that with pretty much anything, right? We could
Absolutely.
do recruiting and onboarding a new person through their probation period. Well, if you chunk it up, then you're going to secure the outcome of having a great new team member at the end of that 2-month period or 3-month period. But if you just hire them and chuck them in and hope for the best,
Exactly.
well, good luck with the outcome.
Exactly. So there you
Yeah.
go. Now is the time to plan for those outcomes, and we've got a full few days ahead before the Christmas break to actually sit down and work out what you want those outcomes to be, what the plan's going to be for that, so that when you hit the ground running in January, you've got those tasks already in the diary, all ready to go, and you haven't wasted a couple of weeks at the start of January thinking about those outcomes and thinking about those plans. Then thinking about them now, getting that default diary set up, getting everything ready to go. So when you sit at your desk on that, whatever it is, the 3rd, the 4th, I think for some of us, the 5th or the 6th, maybe, I don't know. But the idea being that you're ready to go and you're not thinking about it at that point. You're ready to press the button at that point. So very exciting time. If you are watching this or listening to this, get going. Let's get going. Let's get on with it, and let's get planning for the next. We've got an amazing 2026 to look forward to and to plan for. Reflecting back on 2025, it's been a fantastic year personally for me in terms of getting some things on the go, including this podcast. Sanjiv, it's been great to chat to you, and we're gonna have plenty of these podcasts coming in 2026 as well that we've already been planning for. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to it. Clarity, focus, action, excited, rearing to go to 2026. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Take care.